Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Vaporway, which is an action 3D platformer with stylings, yes, stylings, based off the 80s and 90s. And today, there is no special guest, there is no other team member, it's just you, me, and sound design. First, we're going to be talking about diegetic sounds. For those who don't know, diegetic sounds are sounds that occur in the game world. So for these types of sounds, I generally take already existing sound effects and then alter them to suit my needs in Audacity. While committing grand audio larceny sounds simple, there are some catches. For example, what if the sound you are trying to make doesn't really exist? So what sort of sound would a steaming bubblegum make? For those sorts of situations, I think it's best to subdivide the sound you are trying to make. So this hypothetical firearm shoots bubbles and is reheated. So I would subdivide that into a heater element noise and a shooting bubble noise. So from there I grabbed some ambient fire white noise and a bubble popping sound, slammed them together, did some effect adjustments in Audacity, and BAM! We have the sound of the bubble boiler firing. There are also potential concerns of these diegetic sounds becoming too repetitive, which would break the immersion, as most sounds in the real world have a ton of variables that cause variation, like the velocity of the sound, its position relative to your ear, and the different ambience or atmosphere the sound is made in. So to help solve this problem, I extended the method I use to play sound effects in my audio manager to include an optional pitch randomizer for sound effects that I expect the player to hear often. Speaking of the audio manager and its methods, it utilizes built-in Unity audio components to handle where and when these diegetic sounds should play, which as far as the player is concerned means that you can hear which direction a sound is playing from. It can also handle looping sound effects like the sound of a river constantly flowing, and it also handles non-diegetic sounds, which are sounds that do not happen in universe. So the primary non-diegetic sound is obviously the game's original soundtrack, which you've been hearing some of throughout all of these devlogs. The major difference as far as the audio manager is concerned is that non-diegetic sounds don't need to worry about taking place at a specific position, so we can just play them and set their 3D value to 0. Real advanced stuff, I know. Speaking of the soundtrack, I made all of them myself in FL Studio, my preferred digital audio workstation, using a VST called Numa Pro, which I believe is no longer maintained by its creator, which shows whenever the program crashes way too often. Even through the crashes though, I love using it because it has a simple user interface, but I still have a ton of control on the sound it's producing. So here's the initial sound it makes without any input, and here's the sound it makes just after a little bit of tweaking. As far as methodology for making songs themselves is concerned, I kind of just go with my heart and try to hit the vibe at the level I'm making the track for. I start with one element of a phrase, the bass line, chord progression, harmony, or the melody, then fill in the rest of the phrase based on that, and from there it is rinse and repeat making phrases until I have a full song. And it generally gets easier the further I work, as there is more and more musical context for me to either adhere to or actively break away from. And that concludes today's devlog. Check in back with us in around 2 or so weeks when we will hopefully be talking about enemies and their design. See you around!